So slavery. What is
Yes.
slavery? We should probably define our terms because I don't know about you, but in my travels, I find that this is a word that's very easy to equivocate over. And I have
Hmm.
debated numerous people on the topic of slavery, both as a Christian apologist, debating atheists about
Yep.
why slavery in the Bible, from the biblical perspective, is morally permissible by God, and from the atheist perspective of why it's not. So I've
Yes.
argued both sides of this, and what I find, or what I have found, is that it's really easy to equivocate for the apologist in particular to equivocate with
Hmm.
meanings so as not to trap themselves with the morality of the specific act of relevance, which is a human being owning another human being as property. And
Yeah.
so I tend to define slavery that way for the purposes of the discussion. So what would you say is a usable
Yeah.
usable
No, no, no.
definition?
That's probably one step. I would actually say slavery is any form of labor arrangement where the person doing the work does not have, or either has limited or has no personal or economic freedom.
So this would include indentured servitude as well. Your
Indeed.
definition.
However, with that there is actually a scope for manumission. With
A
that, so
scope for
there is
what? I'm
actually
sorry.
manumission. So the ability to be set free.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So with indentured servitude, or in the Bible, the indentured servitude was 7 years for Hebrew men, and that's something
For the
that we'll get to
males,
later
right?
on.
Right.
Whereas, for example, like you can't like so with any form of slavery, like you can't just walk away. Is the is and no thought is given to your health or safety, and there's no ability to increase wages or discuss.
Terms
Yeah,
of your contract.
correct.
Yeah.
So basically, you do the work.
Mhm.
You wear the responsibility for the work, and you're not allowed to trade your way up or out of the situation.
It's interesting because your definition, we talked about traditional slavery as
Mm-hmm.
I defined it. Your definition includes the indentured servitude.
Well,
Almost seems
not.
like it almost seems like it would include, people who are in the NFL as well, and various other sports personalities
Oh,
in my country.
not quite, because in sporting in sporting teams,
They
there
can
is care.
quit.
Well, one, they can quit, but there's also priority given to their health and their well being. Like if you get injured, playing for the Lakers,
Mhm.
you'll get that top class treatment to make sure that you can keep playing, and all
Right.
that kind of stuff. My definition of slavery also includes things like serfdom as well, and that's something that gets overlooked a lot.
You're gonna
Although
have to
what
explain that to me.
Oh, okay. Serfdom is basically where a lord has acreage, or has land that he then gets slaves to cultivate for him.
Okay.
So and that's called a serf, and the people who work on the land are called serfs, and the whole package is called serfdom, SERF.
Sounds like a plantation here.
Yeah, actually, that's probably one way of looking at it. Yes.
Okay.
However, the serfs do have some limited rights in that, like they're allowed to take a little bit of what they produce.
Hmm.
However, they are still inherently the property of the lord, of the master.
Right.
Stuff like that. So it's not just chattel slavery like it was in the South, but also includes things like serfdom, concentration camps as well.
Yeah.
That would also be a form of slavery.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So,
possible. Sorry.
are any forms of these are any forms of slavery, all of the things that you're including as possible things that we could apply the word slavery to, are any of them morally tolerable under any circumstance?
Oh boy. if there was I suppose the only one would be indentured servitude, and that's only because the person can walk into indentured servitude, and there's a clear path out of indentured servitude.
Okay. Now, what about
That's probably the only one I would be somewhat comfortable with, but still, there would have to be, from my personal view, there would have to be provisions that if the worker gets injured or he needs time off or something, that there's some. I suppose probably the other thing I forgot is like there is no focus given to the health of the worker. You know, if the worker drops dead, the worker drops dead. There's no,
right. Now, what about the element of prison workers or prisoners of war, where you have forced labor
Yep.
among legally convicted people, or at least military detainees? Would that fall under the definition of slavery, in your opinion?
Not quite, because even in prisons there is a duty of care given. There's a duty of care on the state to look after the well-being of the prisoner. And especially in the Australian system, prisoners earn money that they can then spend to purchase goods or services or stuff like that. So there is a sort of like a small capitalist economy inside the prison system,
Right.
as well. So I wouldn't. The old notion of chain gangs might be closer to my definition of slavery, but like
But generally speaking, you wouldn't include prisoners or prisoners of war.
no, I wouldn't. Like, sure, they are there for life, but they're in prison in the first place as a punishment for crimes that they've done. They're not there in prison to do the work. The work in the prison is just like a side, a side thing that they're then allowed to, earn money to trade their way up.
Right.
And even then, in prison, there is a duty of care given, on the state to look after the health and well-being of the prisoner.
Okay.
Well, in writing, yes. If you listen to Larry Lawton's channel, he'll tell you that the state doesn't give two shits about the prisoners. But in Australia, I think we do a fairly decent job of trying to preserve the human dignity of prisoners. And
Yes.
one way we do that is by either having education courses for them, or allowing them to work jobs inside the prison for them to earn money that they can then spend on goods and services.
Yeah, we have something similar here in the United States prison systems, although it all sucks and it's not designed for rehabilitation, and there are no shits given to humanity or well-being of the prisoners, right? Because it's a money-making financial institution, so it's all about profit here, unfortunately. But different topic, which we will get into later.